Welcome to the Action Shooting Show. I'm going to do a little bit different of an episode tonight. I guess maybe a tutorial, but we are going to talk about everybody's favorite targets, which are Throoms. I'm sure I heard some people groaning through the computer right now. So, first thing I want to kind of mention, maybe do a argument for match directors, because I think people think match directors put these in matches to make you hate your life. And while that is a pleasant side effect as a match director who uses these, I'll say the big thing is I can have you shoot these at 5, 10, 15 yards. There's no reset and there's no danger. If I had you shoot a 2-inch piece of steel at 5 yards, we'd have spall. The target would probably get destroyed by 223. The hardware would get destroyed. It's really not a great strategy. Obviously, you can put out paper, but now we got to paste, we got to reset. These, I can stick them up, and as soon as you hit it, someone calls hit, we move on. Specifically, these 2 inches, though, are used a lot, and in my experience from running these in matches, and I've run probably every match I've had for the last 2 years has used these, or almost every match. The 2-inch are really easy to call hits. Wind doesn't move it a lot, so anytime you see it jiggle, flip, move, it was a rifle hit or pistol. Although pistol does destroy them a little bit quicker. The 3-inch and the 4-inch are a lot harder to call hits on. Sometimes the wind moves them. They're a little heavier, so when they hit, they're not as easy to call. So really, I think that's the big reason you see the 2-inch. Obviously, match directors do like challenging things like height over bore, which is really the problem with these. It's not really the size. Because if you do the math on these at 5, 10, 15 yards, these really close, like when we're usually shooting these, even at 20 yards, these things are like 4, 5, 6 MOA or bigger. The closer you get, the bigger that target is as far as your minute of angle. But so it's not like it's necessarily the smallest target you have to shoot. A lot of times you are shooting them offhand, which makes it a little bit of a challenge. But it's really that height over bore. So these really favor the prepared, which a lot of good targets do. So something I've done, and I'll give you a better picture of this in here, is I've actually gone out to the range, gotten kind of steady, and at 5, 10, or what do I got here? 5, 10, and 20 yards, I have figured out with my reticle what my height over bore is on this specific rifle. Depending on what rifle, ammo you use, this stuff's all going to change. This was with 55 grain. If I switch different 55 grains, this especially offhand, this is not so exact that it's not going to hold up. It's unless the round changes a lot, you're not going to see that at these distances. But for instance, at 5 yards, I got 12 mils. I got to hold, because of the height over bore, the difference between your, and those that don't know, height over bore means my rifle sight is a good 2 inches higher than, or something around that, over where my muzzle is. So at 1 yard, if I shoot a target, whatever I see, however what that distance is, right at the muzzle is going to be underneath it. So at 5 yards, there's still a pretty big discrepancy. Now, if we're zeroed at 50, that round has, the angle of the barrel's pointed up, and that round's come, and that's going to cross my reticle. So at 50 yards, let's say if I have a 50 yard or 200 yard zero, that's where it's going to go. If the target's in front of that 50 yards, I'm going to be hitting low. If it's over that, if it's like 100 yards and I got a 50 yard zero, I'm going to hit a little bit high. You usually don't run into as much of an issue at further, but that's why we learn our holds for these different distances. And close distances should not be any different. So I'm going to have another graphic that kind of shows, though, here where some comment, like possibly where you may need to aim, but you really got to do the homework for yourself. So I'll kind of have that up there, but the first part of this is knowing where to hold to get the closest as you can to the center of this. One maybe little trick, if you got a good solid, if you can stay steady on it and you're not 100% sure, aim a little bit high, because this strap's hanging down. If I'm aiming in the center here and I hit the strap, it's still going to move. If I go below it, it's not going to move. So I guess if you're when in doubt, maybe aim just a little bit high. Try to really stay centered on that. And that's a good strategy for it. If you're rested, that's a really good strategy because you can hold. That's still a fairly good target. If you have a red dot, you're just going to have to know by your dot size at the distance kind of how high you need to hold, or a BDC or something like that. It's going at these distances, seeing what it looks like, and practicing it. That's really the only way to do this. The other thing about these would be if I'm shooting it offhand. It is a little bit smaller looking target. If I'm trying to shoot offhand, especially in run and gun where I maybe just run or did a bunch of stuff and I'm winded, these targets can be a little bit hard. Offhand shooting can be a little bit of a challenge. I first heard this from Patrick Kelly. I'm sure this is a technique other people have used. I don't know if there's necessarily a name for it. But one thing that helps me, and you still have to remember your hold on this, but instead of trying to get centered on this, I'm going to try to show you this way, and you're going to be wobbling all over the place, and the main strategy is let me try to get my wobble zone down to where what I'm shooting at's inside of that. It's a great strategy. If you're calm, if you can get stable enough, that's a good strategy. But sometimes with small targets and things, our wobble zone may be a little bit bigger than what we're shooting at. So one strategy would be to sweep. I sweep shooting, I guess you could call it. But basically, if I want to hit it right here, I'm going to start down here. I'm going to slowly sweep up and be prepping the trigger. And as soon as my reticle gets over this, I'm going to break the shot. So in this way, I'm controlling. And then you can sweep, up into the left, up into the right. You can sweep down. It kind of comes what's natural for you, what you've practiced. But the idea there is that I'm sweeping into it, and I'm not having to hold steady. I can just break the shot when my reticle is right where I need. Keep in mind, we're talking break. You really need to be on the edge. You don't want to get up over this and jerk the snot out of the trigger because you have a chance of pulling it off. Rifle, it's a lot harder to pull things off. You really got to be kind of aggressive with the trigger, but it's still possible. So that sweep method works. I've used these for especially when I'm like really winded in a stage. I've used it on plate racks, 3-gun especially. They've done plate racks at like 55, 60, 70 yards. And sometimes depending on what's going on and you're just standing there offhand, and it's hard to, it's not hard to hold that wobble zone like that, but you're trying to do it quickly. So if all I got to do is start just a little bit low, sweep up, break, sweep up, break, sweep up, break, it tends to be a very quick way to get your hits. Again, this is all stuff. Go onto the range, practice this. Don't take my word for it. But that's maybe some of my advice for shooting Throoms. Generally I do pretty well at these. I don't have a whole lot of problems. Like everything, man, there are days where these little things drive me nuts, and it seems like I don't know what I'm doing, but I can't hit them to save my life. And I don't know that there's a stage I've timed out with these anytime, but like. It takes a lot longer than I think it should take. Let me put it that way. I don't think these have really caused me like to die on a stage, but they take way more hits than I would like sometimes. And then other days we just shot Legion, and I shot a handful of these and dropped a couple shots, on the whole day. So hopefully that helps you. If you have questions, feel free to ask. If maybe you got a good strategy or technique, chime in the comments. The big thing again is I can show you my notes and what I'm doing, and that's for my rifle and my ammo and my reticle and all that, and yours is going to be totally different. So last thing, if you've noticed I got a hat on here, Stoner CNC. If you like that hat, if you think it's pretty cool, you should keep an eye out in the show, keep an eye out on our social media, and besides two of these hats, we are going to be soon doing a giveaway on some muzzle brakes, Stoner CNC Hollywood 556 muzzle brakes. We have a couple of these to give away. And we're going to be doing an interview with one of the designers of this. Is a friend of mine. They've got this new brake out. I'm just put one of these on my rifle, so I'm going to be testing it out, let everyone know how I think. They have done a lot of testing. They have some information online about it, and so keep an eye out because we want to give some of this. We got 2 hats. We got 3 muzzle brakes. We're going to be giving that all away here very, very soon. So, again, if you have questions, feel free to ask. If you have any questions about any other comments, techniques, if it's something I know, I'll help out. If it's something other people I know are better at, we're going to tap them in to help you out. But we don't want people struggling on stuff that really, this is within everybody's capability. They just need a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of practice, and maybe a little bit of concepts behind what they're doing and why. So anytime, feel free to ask away, and I hope to see you out in the range.